Hello, good morning. My name is Rebecca Peroy. This is for class 683. Today is April 1st. So today we are going to do a introduction to data collection in ABA. So to begin, this training will focus on the critical skills of data collection in ABA, accurate and consistent data collection. It's fundamental to evaluating client progress and making informed decisions about treatment plans. So this training will provide staff with the tools and knowledge necessary to implement effective data training, data collection procedures that ensure both reliability and accuracy in tracking behavior. By the end of the session, we hope that you do feel more confident in gathering data. The objectives of this training will be to understand the importance of accurate data collection, implementing the correct data collection methods. For time's sake, we are only going to cover 4 different data collection. However, I do have some great resources on a handout and included in this PowerPoint for all the different kinds of data collection in ABA. Number 3, identify common challenges in data collection, how to address them. Number 4, use provided data collection tools correctly and apply the best practices during data collection. Some of the key concepts, we're going to go over frequency, we're going to go over duration, we're going to go over intensity and latency. I do include a handout and an image in here that does address more than just those, just for your own knowledge going forward. However, for the sake of time, we're just going to cover those 4. So let's begin with frequency. This is probably the one that you're going to use most often. Frequency data involves counting how many times a specific behavior occurs. So you may use that during your sessions of 30 minutes or 2 hours. You're just going to either track it via a data sheet or your iPad or your phone. And that's just going to be a count. So when you use it, when they have a clear start and end, it can easily be tracked. For instance, vocalization. So repeating, ba, say ba, you're going to count correct if they do repeat that ba. So how to collect, you do want to define the target behavior clearly and count each instance the behavior occurs. So for example, client says please during a session, you're going to count how many times the child says please during that session. For the best practice tip, ensure consistency in when the count occurs, and if the behavior is ambiguous, redefine it to ensure that accuracy. Here is an example frequency data sheet. So you're going to define the target behaviors, take the date, and then count. You can tally how many times. This is also included in the handout, this example. Next, we're going to go over duration. So duration data measures how long a behavior lasts from an onset to its cessation. When we are going to use this is behaviors that involve sustained engagement or time-related actions like tantrums, attending to tasks, or playing with an object. How we collect these. So we're going to define when the behavior begins. So child starts a tantrum and use a stopwatch or timer to track how long the behavior lasts. Then, of course, record how long that behavior lasts. So, for example, behavior, child is engaged in a tantrum. The duration, you're going to use your stopwatch to measure the time from when the tantrum begins and ends. For your best practice tip, be prepared to time multiple episodes of behavior if they occur in cycles. So tantrums with breaks in between. Next, we're going to go over intensity. Intensity data measures the strength or the magnitude of the behavior. So this is recorded on a scale like low, medium, and high. When we use behaviors that can vary in intensity, such as like aggression or vocalizations, like yelling. How we are going to collect it. So define a scale for measuring the behavior's intensity, like 1 to 5, and observe the behavior and rate that intensity. And of course, record that. So for example, client engages in hitting behavior intensity, rate that hitting behavior on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being gentle, 5 being forceful. And be consistent with your scale and ensure that all the team members understand how the scale works. Next, we're going to go over latency. So latency data measures the time between the presentation of a stimulus, so the prompt or request, and the start of what the target behavior. So this is used to understand how quickly a child will respond to the given prompt. When we're going to use it, when measuring the time it takes for behavior to occur after the specific antecedent or instruction is given. So for example, defining the stimulus, we're going to use clean up, measure the time from the presentation of saying clean up the stimulus to the start of behavior, and then of course record that data. For the best practice tip, record the latency immediately after the behavior starts to ensure that accuracy, and keep your timer handy. You can always use your phone. That's always the easiest way. So here are some advantages and disadvantages. This gets into a little bit more than the 4 that we have talked about today. This will also be included on your handout, but I did want to include partial interval recording, whole interval recording as well. And you can go ahead and read this on your handout as well. So some common challenges and solutions. So inconsistency in recording, that's a big one. Make sure that all your team members follow the same procedures and definitions for behaviors. Inaccurate timing. So of course, we're going to be using our stopwatch and timer, and that's going to be really important to ensure accuracy and duration and latency measurements. Interruptions, that's a big one. Of course, we know that these kiddos are unpredictable. Their houses are unpredictable. We may be working in home and we're not able to always control the situation. So find a balance between collecting data and attending to the child's needs. Of course, if they're engaging in harmful activity, the priority is going to be keeping that child safe. So it can be difficult at times. For best practices, consistency is most important. Always use the same definitions and procedures when collecting that data. Regular reviews. So you always want to double check your data sheets, check the data sheets if there's multiple behavior analysts involved as well. Collaborate communication with the other team members to ensure that you all are on the same page and resolving any issues related to this data collection. And of course, timely recording, record the data as soon as the behavior occurs. I did want to include some additional resources as well. So some of these go into more detail on how to collect the data and what the data sheets look like. If you're not using like an application on your iPad or your phone to collect data. And the other one goes into more detail on different types of data collection. So here is the fun part. I do want to engage you guys in a discussion. So you can meet with a partner or you can, write it down. What challenges have you faced with data collection in the past and how did you address them? Another one to discuss is how the team can create a consistent process for dealing with these challenges, because we are going to face challenges throughout data collection, throughout all of our sessions, so we have to work together and really think about those. I do also want to engage, once you're done with that, in a role play. So pairing up with a colleague, one will play the role of the client, the other will practice collecting the data. So you can choose frequency, duration, interval recording, and then provide feedback on the accuracy of that data recorded. In conclusion, we've covered many components of effective data collection, discussed the common challenges, and reviewed best practices. The ability to collect accurate and consistent data is vital to the success as behavior technicians and to the overall progress of our clients. So I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation and you learned something. Thank you so much for watching. Here's my resources as well.